Well, good evening and welcome. This is PJNet.TV. I'm Coach Prasick as we begin a. Oops, sorry, that's my remote for my air conditioner, folks. Just turning the fans down. As we begin another week without our producer, Miss Barbara, keep her in her prayers. She is home, but she is sick. So she continues to be in absentia. But the program goes on, and it goes on in a very special way. Tonight, we bring you for the first time on the big screen, first time guest number, let me get an exact count, first time guest number 329. Candyce Carden comes to us from her home in Georgia. That is not scenery of Georgia behind me, folks. That's the Golden Gate Bridge back in the day when San Francisco was a place you wanted to visit. Candyce is visiting us from the state of Georgia, just north of me, although we're a long ways off. She's in North Georgia. I'm in North Florida. Candyce, how did you stumble in here? Do you know JD or somebody like that?
Yes, JD has been a great online writing friend. I've never met him in person, but I feel like I know him really well through his writing, and he's just one of the most encouraging, uh, faith-based writers I know. I love reading about the ranch and all the lessons he writes about there, and he has helped inspire my walk with Christ through those readings.
They don't come, he said, you say encourager. That's not a superlative that really conveys he goes overboard.
You're right.
Not, I mean, he does, I don't know how he finds the time. I figure, in my estimation, he spends 3 hours a day reading other people's blog and then comments or post on Facebook or wherever.
That's what I want to talk to him about when I meet him. How do you manage your time?
He must. I mean, I don't really catch the time of the post, but he must get up at 3 in the morning, 'cause I know he has to get out and feed cows.
Yeah.
But he's been an encourager to you as well as many others, and apparently it wasn't that long ago that you decided, well, maybe you're going to go past blogging and maybe publish a book.
Right.
When was that?
That was I retired from teaching in 2019, and I've written for years, not always Christian writing, some Christian writing, but mostly secular based magazines, and I wrote school curriculum and that type of stuff. Well, by the time I retired, I was just feeling the call from God to focus on Christian writing, and started just writing some little devotionals and Christian living articles. And through all this, I discovered that I really liked writing devotions. They're short, little,
Hmm.
applicable lessons that can apply to us, and I get a lot of inspiration from nature, especially the beach. So when I was spending some time at the beach uh, writing, I started getting inspiration from the coastal creations that were there, and I conceived this idea of just doing a book of devotions set at the beach. So that's where I'm at right now. The book is titled right now, "Waves of God's Glory: Refreshing Retreats to the Seashore."
Well, not only is the beach a good place. I don't well, actually I don't like the beach, but for most people,
What?
the beach. No, I don't. I see how pale my skin is. If I get if I get out in the sun, I turn lobster. I turn flamingo. I turn about this color. Uh, in a matter of moments, flamingo. I grabbed this picture from Candace's blog. But flamingos, you somehow that speaks to your heart. You are reminiscing the days of bush gardens.
Yes, that's right. And I've always had a thing about flamingos. They're just delightful creatures to look at.
Well, you hang around. I think you told me earlier that Destin is one of your favorite destinations. Busch Gardens is one of your favorite destinations. And
Mhm.
I just want to thank you because Florida is one of only 5 states that does not have a personal income tax. And the reason that we don't have that is because of tourists like you come and buy stuff down here and pay our exorbitant sales tax.
Yes.
So, and lottery tickets and, things of that sort. But Florida is a very tourism driven state.
Motivated.
But at the same time, it's very agricultural as well. And most people don't know that. But the primary number one industry in Florida is, in fact, agriculture. Now, for the longest time, it was oranges, grapefruit, tangerines. Now I think it's marijuana. But in any event,
Seriously.
I don't know. I'm just making this stuff up. Yeah,
I don't know you yet.
Yeah. You said you taught.
Yes. Yes,
Go.
I did. I taught elementary school and moved into administration later. And when I retired from that job, I did first year composition at Kennesaw State University in Georgia. Yeah, so I've taught ages from kindergarten up through freshman and sophomore college. That was my life work. Throughout this time of teaching, I was doing some curriculum writing and that kind of stuff, though I always felt like writing was my true calling. But when I look back in hindsight, I see that I was supposed to be teaching all along. And I still do teaching in different settings, different situations.
Well, when you get the manuscript in for editing, you may reconsider that writing maybe wasn't here. I hear that is a brutal process,
It is grueling, yes.
Oh,
It's very enjoyable at times, but that's not always the case.
well, and I don't. We need criticism, and we need that counsel, but it sure is hard to receive.
It can be. What is hard for me is putting yourself out there and exposing your work. We used to do workshop in our college classrooms where peers would look at each other's works and offer feedback. And one of them said one time, "Oh man, this is just like standing naked up on a stage," and that can be true about writing. Um, but I think once you get over that, you get to the point where you really appreciate the feedback. You want your critique groups to be tough on you and to help improve your writing. But yeah, I get it. At first, it's very difficult.
Well, I don't take it as good. People would say, "Well, I think it would be better if you said," I say, "Well, I don't want to be like you. In fact, you couldn't pay me $1 million to be like you. I don't like you. I don't." I don't like. It's hard not to take it personal, but in fact, when you get in these accountability groups or editing groups or anytime you're interacting with peers in a more professional setting, Proverbs says it is wise to seek the counsel of many. The question is, who?
True, and you don't always have to take what they tell you. You don't always have to take it to heart. The final decision is yours.
I'm going to put your website up on the screen because there is where you blog. We've already blown your cover about the flamingos, but you are blogging. A lot of people blog monthly, but you don't.
No, I do 2 times a month. Every other week is my goal to blog. I know many who blog weekly, and they're very loyal and dedicated to that. And that's what experienced writers in the business tell us we should do to build up the following. I'm happy doing 2 times a month. That's really about all I schedule.
Is it 2 times a month or every 2 weeks? There's a difference,
It's there's not that much difference, but
4 times a year there is.
every other week.
Every other week. Okay.
Yes.
So every 2 weeks, that's 26 episodes or blogs. I think episodes. Sorry.
More or less. I get that.
And but let's say Catherine Pacehour is in our chat room at the moment,
Oh.
and that is a name that came up earlier today as well.
Yeah, she's another one of my encouragers. I've enjoyed walking her walk with her. She's recently gone through book publication. It's very exciting. She's been
Yeah.
a good sounding board for me. It's a really good community of Christian writers that I'm connected with online.
If you feel this connection to the beach the way you do,
Mhm.
uh, you're a long way from the beach. Have you considered maybe going to where your inspiration would flow more freely, or is it more fun to just go on a trip?
I go to the beach quite frequently, and I'm 6 hours from Destin, where I live, so that's not that far. But um, I don't know if there is a place where my inspiration flows more freely. Sometimes it comes very easily, and then other times it's harder
Do you
to
go to the
find.
beach year round or just during the warmer months?
Oh, year round. In fact, this is one of my favorite times of the year to go. Got a trip planned in November to go to Destin.
Destin?
Hmm.
Well, I've been to Destin a few times, but when I went, I was going deep sea fishing because there's actually some cliffs off the Gulf of Mexico. There's a long shelf, the continental shelf. Whoops, my hand got cut off. But there's a cliff out there, and you can actually catch marlin. But it's an 18-hour boat trip one way. So, and charter boats used to be about $150 an hour. So
Hmm.
that was 20 years ago. They're probably double that now, and
Wow.
who knows? I don't think I can afford to catch a marlin anymore. But
Anymore.
I should have caught one when I could have afforded it or something. If you
So
have
did,
the time.
you never caught one? You just went on the trips?
No, but they are. I was in Cabo San Lucas
Hmm.
on a cruise, and we were on the little catamaran sailboat, and I saw the guy that was supposedly running the catamaran. He's probably about 19 years old. He screamed out "Marlin," and he pointed, and the that thing was shooting a rooster tail, and that's when I kind of got the itch. You know, um, but any fish that has a tail, a jack tail, you know what I'm talking about, has a
Hmm.
tail like
Hmm.
that,
I did.
they will fight you. They will fight you. Amberjack, or anyway, you probably don't like the beach for its fishing, though, do you?
No, that does not sound like a fun trip to me.
So, do you, when you go for these writing inspirational tax deductible trips, do you do you stay inside and lounge around reading and writing, or do you go literally out onto the sand and the surf?
I, I get out and walk and explore a whole lot. I like to write sitting on the balcony. The place we stay has a little balcony just overlooking the East Pass there in Destin, with the real pretty sun dunes and the sea oats blowing in the wind.
Yeah, don't pick the sea oats in Florida, folks.
No, don't.
They will send you to jail.
Sea oats. Yeah, I, I have a devotion about the sea oats. They appear so fragile. They're just lovely, but they look fragile as they blow and sway and bow in the wind. But underneath, they have these massive root systems that hold them in place. They are there for not only economic reasons, but environmental reasons. They help hold those sand dunes in
Yep,
place to protect property from storms coming in from sea.
right. Yeah, here inland we use kudzu for that.
You have kudzu in Florida?
Oh, the stuff was invented down here. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you can't
Wait,
kill that stuff.
yeah, it's here in Georgia for sure.
It's a scourge on the land, and we blame everything on the University of Florida, the Institute of Food and Agricultural Science. It's one of those tests that got out of the lab, and now
Uh-huh.
kudzu's growing, and it takes over wherever it grows.
Yeah, it
Well, you
does.
you've bragged about the beach, and I know for those that love the beach, which is most people, it's a
Mhm.
wonderful time. But I want you to think about a time that you had a bad experience at the beach.
Okay. My daughter was 3 years old, took her to the beach for the very first time, and I could not wait for her to get into the ocean, to experience the ocean for the very first time. And we went down to the beach and played in the sand a while, and started edging our way to the water. And she was really excited and waving her arms in glee. And we went out a little bit further, and a larger wave came roaring in and splashed her in the face and burned her eyes. And she had a fit, and the salt was in her mouth, and I had to just scoop her up and take her back to the beach, and she would not go near the water again. And I felt, really bad for that for years, because I felt maybe that I had rushed that a little bit. She was about 3 at the time. A little bit later, though, she had another experience with salt that was a much happier occasion. When she was baptized, our minister had this ritual where on new baptisms, he would sprinkle salt on the tongue, and you're the salt of the earth. Go be the salt of the earth.
Really?
And so, yep, got to researching that, and I learned that salt stands for an everlasting covenant. It's permanent. Salt never goes away. It can lose its flavor, but it never disappears. And that became one of my devotions for Waves of Glory. I did some research and on salt, the use of salt in the Bible and all it represents. And Jesus says in Matthew somewhere, he tells us to go be the salt of the earth. We are to help preserve life, just as salt helps preserve food, preserve life by living our life in such a way that points others to Christ. And just as salt can lose its flavor, Christians can also lose our saltiness. We can lose our flavor when we're not living in such a way that's winning others for God's kingdom. So yeah, that's the story about the flamingos, that was a trip with my children when they were all into amusement rides. A lot of the devotions that I'm writing go back with those kind of connections and those kind of stories.
I'm so glad you brought up the illustration of the salt, because I hear that from time to time from the pulpit, and as usual, they talk about its preserving characteristics, which is true. But I like it because salt is an irritant. You ever get a little paper, just the smallest of cuts.
Yes.
Get a little salt in there, or fertilizer works too. You'll know, and I think that resonates with me, because I think that we need to not be irritable, not be abrasive, but at the same time, we've got to get ourselves, and in fact others, out of their comfort zone. And that requires some irritation. I remember beginning, I was brought into, I don't get to speak that often, but this time I said, my goal is to irritate you. I want you to get upset. I want you to get so upset that you actually make some changes. Because we have too many ticklers of the ear, too many soothsayers. God's word is loving and preserving, but God's word also challenges us and rebukes us.
Yes.
So one without the other is not only incomplete, it's kind of misleading, you think?
I do think that. Salt is also healing, right? Doesn't it have healing properties?
Yeah, Epsom salts is a good thing, I've noticed lately. I don't know what the difference between Epsom salts and salt is, but there must be some difference because it costs more. And it's sold at a drugstore. You can go to CVS to get Epsom salt. You can't get salt. But anyway. Oh, we've run out of time. Oh, gosh. CandyceCarden.com. Notice the spelling. You blog there, and I presume that when your book comes out, that'll be a good place to find out first, wouldn't it? Maybe subscribe to your newsletter or something.
And the newsletter, I do send out a quarterly newsletter. And some of the devotions that I post are beach related, but not all of them are. So I would love to have you come visit. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Candice, thank you so much for sharing. Sorry, time went so fast. You're so easy to talk to.
It did. It flew by.
Keep coming back to Florida.
Wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Keep coming to Florida. We need your money. Okay.
I'll be there early November.
There you go.
Good
Candyce
night.
Carden here on pjnet.tv. What a fun time. Lover of the beach. Okay. Like many of you, just not me. Well, gosh, that was wonderful. PJNet, by the way, if you haven't heard, is a platform where everyday Christians share their walk with Christ, just like Candace did. All right, in a few moments, we have another program starting at the bottom of the hour. Gosh, I'll be busy. While I'm busy, here's something to keep you busy. It's just 2 questions. You ready? Here we go. Question number 1. What is the boldest thing you have ever done in the kingdom of Christ? And the second question, ready? When was that? And the challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.